Hi, I'm Eiley.
I'm John, and this is Hamish.
And we're turning our 20 acres of wild Tasmanian bush into our dream homestead, one crazy, awesome project at a time.
Well, the next job on the list. We had this 14,500 litre tank delivered. I need to get the ball valve on. So it's a 1.5 inch ball valve. So I need to do a 42 mil hole saw through the bottom. I want to leave some meat, for that to attach on the bottom, but then just to stop any sediment or gunk on the bottom coming through. Yeah, haven't done one of these before. This is one of the easier ways to get the valve out through the hole.
Well, this is for anyone who kind of is either researching or looking into doing this themselves, and is just wondering why we chose the tanks that we've chosen. We already had an existing 22,000 litre tank, so when I was doing our calculations for how much water we'd go through, and I factored that in, I was looking at either something between 10,000 and 20,000 litres for a bit more water security. I ended up going with the 14.5. I went with poly just because of price and size. If you got a bit more money, you might look into, say, a fiberglass tank, or you want something a bit more permanent, even concrete. I didn't want permanent just yet, because if I ever wanted to move and change things around, I can drain a poly tank and I can move it, as you might see later on. That was also a consideration.
Yummy.
What are you doing up there?
Cleaning the gutters.
And why are you cleaning the leaves?
Just so the gutters all cleared out, ready to go, just so they're not go into the tank. Getting rid of a lot of the leaf and the dirt that's in the gutters before I hook them up. Just because they've been like this for a couple of years, so they haven't been cleaned before, and they had the plastic temporary downpipe.
Yep.
Up. So none of the leaf matter actually came out of the gutters. It all just got stuck up in here.
Nice job.
The shed's a skillion roof and it slopes down. I couldn't get a 20,000 or 22,000 litre tank to fit in and be able to hook up off the shed without actually losing water storage room in the tank. So I went with the 14.5 squat, because we had the width where we were intending. So it didn't matter if the tank was a bit wider than a 10,000 litre tank, as we had the spare room. I'm not using that spot for anything else. So that was a consideration, because I needed to get the fall from the roof to be able to go into the tank. The 14.5 fits that perfectly. The 10 probably could have done it as well, but I wanted the extra 4,500 litres of water. Like, why not? I got the price. For the price I paid, it was cheaper than a 10,000 litre tank.
Now I'm only going to temp fit this. I've got a firefighting tank coming, gal tank, which is going to go next to here. So what I want to do is I want to plumb directly into the firefighting tank, so it's always topped up and full, especially for summer. And then from its overflow, I'm going to feed back into this 14,000 litre tank, or 14,500 litre tank. But for the moment, until we get that tank, I'll fill this one up and then switch it over to the gal tank in the future. So I had one of these mozzie stoppers on the other tank, and I'll just stick that into, I think that's a 15 degree. And that'll just sit there temporarily. I might even cut the pipe a little bit shorter, but I'll see how that all flows and go with that. The reason I've put the mozzie stopper on the end is I don't want any mozzies or insects or anything being able to come back up. We've got a lot of like mud wasps and stuff here as well. I don't want them to be able to come back up that line and get to the first flush diverter I put in the corner. So I put a Rainhead around there. I'll go around there now. As I was saying, I put the mozzie stopper on the end there to stop any insects, bugs and stuff getting back up the line and coming up to here, because I've got this Rainhead, which has got a mozzie stopper in it as well. So pretty much once the water comes into here, I don't want it being able to be get any mosquito larvae or any other insects in it. I want to keep it clean, because this here I'm about to install now is my first flush diverter, which is going to run down here, and I'll drop that in. And then I've just got to run my line in from down there and pick up that downpipe, which I'll divert into this Rainhead as well. The reason for the Rainhead is obviously to pick up the 2 downpipes, but also to be my first catch for any leaves and large leaf matter, anything like that that's kind of coming in from the top. It goes through that first, gets filtered out, then comes in, sediment goes down my charge line, and then the cleanest water possible heads down towards my tank, which will go through the mozzie stopper, which you can clean out if there's anything going to be caught by that, which should go straight through, and then I can easily clean out my inlet strainer. So what I've done here, I just had a bit of an offcut, just cut it a little bit extra with the coupling on it, glued that together. Gives me around a metre of pipe. Now a metre of 90 mil gives you about 5 litres, nearly 6 litres of storage. This is the end of the bottom of the first flush. It's got a little hose or drip out section, little gasket which lets a little bit out over time. It's got like a filter, little sediment filter, and that glues onto the base of the pipe, this section here, and allows you to screw and disconnect this and give it a clean out every now and then. And then it's got the ball valve which goes in and goes up the top. I'm just going to chuck it on and see if I like it, and then I'll glue it all together and put it on.
After doing a bit of research, I also went with a dark colour. The existing tank is a dark colour, so we just match the same colour. It also happens to be the same colour as the shed, so that works out fine. The dark colour is to reduce mould and bacteria growth inside by reducing the amount of sunlight that gets in. And I've got enough room at the end of the shed to also fit a 10,000 litre gal tank for firefighting in front. That is where we're going to kind of change the driveway around and do a turning bay. So it's a perfect spot for any kind of firefighting vehicle, truck, or you with firefighting trailer to be able to park up, hook up and fill without too much hassle and running around. Also made point to select high quality fittings. We've got the brass ball valves. They're all quite long life. The last thing I wanted to do was either reuse old fittings or cheap out on fittings, especially with the fact that we drink this water.
Line off my 2 screws where I've set up, where I know I need to be between. And now I know any of those that I put up, it's going to have the right form. Alright, so I got the hose up there, just checking everything, making sure all my falls are right. Got water coming out up here. That's what I wanted. Comes down here, drops into the first flush. I've got the small trickle coming out of there, and then it's coming along. And dropping down into the tank. And as you can see, there's also a mozzie stopper. I've just got this sitting in there temporary, but that's my overflow. So essentially my water's secure from any kind of mosquito or bugs. Inlet, pump, out of the pump, up into the first bowl. It's a single manifold, but into the first bowl of the filter, and it's got a 20 micron filter inside it. And then the water then runs through the second bowl, which has got a 5 micron for even finer particles, and then back out, comes down,
and then that goes back into the house. Now this is all just a temporary setup under here. This is all being moved down to wherever I've installed or going to install / move the existing tank to. I'm going to build a pump house out there next to the tank, and that's where I'm going to move the pump and this filter housing, and then replumb it back into the house line here. As you can see, I've got a lot of that spread now. It's a 20 mil, 0 to 20 mil FCR, which is like just a crushed up rock. It's great once it's compacted. So once I've got this spread, I'm going to give it a run over with a level now, level it out, touch up any that I need to move around. I'm probably going to have to move the rest of the pile to that front corner. I'm just keeping enough here just so that when I start leveling it out, I've got enough to drag back. Then I'll wet it down, get a plate compactor, probably on the weekend, and compact it down. But I'll prep both pads first and a few other bits and pieces I got to do, and just compact everything at once. If we ever wanted to do another tank in the future, I'd probably put in another 22,000 litre tank next to that tank. I'd cut another pad and place another tank there next to it. That way the pump can then feed both of those tanks. We just link the tanks and then just feed into the house from there. All right, so this morning I'm now pumping from our old tank up to the other tank just to store for the moment, which I'll then plug into the house to provide us water. So that's currently getting pumped up there at the moment. I think I'm about halfway through. Probably got about 5,000 litres to go. And then I'll get to pulling that apart and replumbing up the top here. I guess one thing that you want to take into consideration if you are off-grid, and I did when we were undertaking moving here, was just making sure like you've got enough water. I checked up and researched our annual rainfall, mean rainfall and average rainfall, and we get about 500 to 600 mil a year. It's not all contained into one part of the year though. We do get some summer rain and some autumn rain. Most of it is that winter, spring rain where we are, but we do get some rain throughout the year that can top up tanks. So you don't have to worry about catching your entire year's water in a 3-month window. So that's one benefit we do have here. Just letting the water out of the charge line, which comes from the house to the tank. Let it take some pressure out and then I'll finish cutting through it. Actually looked pretty clean for water that had been sitting in that line for a bit. Pipes are pretty gross inside though. Sediment that's starting to flow out of them. That's just because it's a charge line and it just sat in the line. Well, just had a bit of a fun one. Just got completely soaked, priming the pump for the house. I'd done it before, but obviously I didn't get all the air out of the line, and I only went to fill the bath for Hamish and stopped running water. So I had to reprime that. I've got that hooked up to the tank at the top, which we'd pumped all the water from this out into. So
that's all running now, that's all good. But yeah, it just goes to show you, sometimes you don't get it right the first go. I'm also just finishing up with getting the last of the water out of this tank. Just use a submersible pump to get the last of the water out of the base.
Attempt number two to go to New Norfolk markets. 2 weeks after the last incident, so I think there's enough time passed that we can attempt again. We need a lot of fruit and vegetables, so hoping to take you along this time. And this is our favourite veggie stand right here. And this is our favourite sourdough and bread. And this is our fruit and veggie haul from the market. Excited. These are the best mushrooms going. And look, it's truly organic. A little smell from the dill.
That's a bit bigger on its side than you think it is, eh? Cleaning it out then, and then aiming to get it in position tomorrow once it's cleaned, so that I can get it plumbed up before we get some good rain on Sunday. Well, that tipped over pretty much how I wanted it to. Just had to change the position a little bit so get the water to drain out the overflow and flush and clean the bottom of the tank. It's actually not as dirty as I thought it would be, or as baked on. It actually seems it should be a pretty easy clean. As I thought, it had previously got cleaned a couple of years ago, so it's really just some light sediment, hasn't really stuck on. Quick hose and it all seems to run off. I've got an idea of how this is going to work. Let's see if it does. Eventually until I just gotta tip it up somehow. I would love to spin it, but I don't think I have the strength.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. it was a 10,000 litre tank, it'd be no problem, but it's a bit heavier.
Oh, Dad's everything down here.
Did Dad stand still long enough to be one of two?
If it's too far up, the Daddy can reach you. Go down here.
Yep, okay.
You right?
Yeah.
Well, we flew off the deck. Yeah. We flew off the deck.
Whoa! Tyres came in handy. All the rubbish tyres that got left here by the time it's taken.
Okay.
Well, there's a will, there's a way.
Woo! One 22,000 litre tank moved into position. Done. Ball valve on. It had a wind down gate valve. I just wanted to swap it for a nice new ball valve. Make it a bit easier to turn off and on. I'll give it a quick spray and a rinse off around the top and drop the stainless steel strainer in. And then what I want to do is get it hooked up between here and the tank because last night we got about 5 mil of heavy rain, just a quick downpour, and we ended up all over the ground. Made a bit of a mess and it woke Hamish up. So make sure that doesn't happen tonight. Well, that should get us out of trouble for tonight. And then I'll get it sorted properly.
We're feeling a bit under the weather this morning, so I'm going to try and make pea and ham soup. There we go, and this is our ingredients. I'm pretty sure that's most of them, but I'll just quickly fill it.
Over the past couple of weeks, we've faced some challenges that have really tested our spirits. Injuries and sickness have swept through our family, and it's been tough to keep our usual positive outlook and enthusiasm going. Living on a large property in the countryside with a young family is incredibly rewarding, but it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's easy to get caught up in the romantic idea of homesteading, but the reality is it's hard work. Despite all this, we're a resilient bunch, and we've been working hard to get back on track. The good news is that we're all on the mend now. Hamish's injury is healing, and our sickness is passing. We're feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, and are excited about the future. As we look ahead to the coming weeks and months, we're filled with anticipation. There are new projects to start, new animals to welcome, potentially, and new challenges to overcome. We're grateful for the lessons we've learned and the strength we've gained from these tough times.
So what I've got here is a 3/4 line, which is connected to a ball valve, which allows me to transfer water from between the two tanks.
A bit of rain today. Just coming out to check how it's all going. Rainhead's doing its job, doing my first filter. Down into the first flush. And got water running into the tank. This one's running as well. Those are all picking water up off the roof, coming down here, filling the first flush, and then it's running down there and starting to fill this tank up.